You're listening to the All Night Society, an actual play podcast brought to you by Queen's Court Games. Well, the night you've been waiting for has finally arrived. It's funny to think that all of this started with a simple errand from the prince. Talk to these three people, make sure they'll stay out of the way. And now look at you. Battle-hardened, very nearly burned alive, enmeshed in a historic moment for not only the Kindred of Chicago, but Kindred all around the world. If Prince Jackson's plan works here, you will have played a vital role in reshaping the Camarilla for centuries to come. Each of you has had a moment to decompress about that, to work those thoughts through your brains as you made your way back to your havens, entered the day sleep, prepared yourself for this evening. Now, the prince isn't an idiot. He knows better than to plan a city-wide get-together immediately after sundown. As we've established, you don't want to show up to any public event hungry, and it's nice for the host to give you time to grab a bite to eat. So let's start there with the topic of hunger. Can I get everyone to make that waking up rouse check for me?
Rousing success.
Yet another rousing success.
I too have a rousing success.
And a rousing success for me.
Well, look at that. What does that say about your respective beasts? That going into this moment, it doesn't make its usual demands of you.
It's either very satisfied with the events of the night before, or it knows that it needs to conserve its energy for later. And I can't quite tell which is which.
I think in your case, it's probably still satisfied from that buffet you indulged in.
Yeah, probably. Thanks for the reminder.
I satiated its thirst for that sort of violence, so maybe, just maybe, it's satisfied for now.
I'm not sure why my beast decided that it didn't want to be hungry today, but I am thankful because I went to bed after that fight with Malenkov starving. So I take a moment this morning to indulge myself in a little bit of breakfast, you might call it.
Do you separate blood types the same way you separate foods that are appropriate for meals? Like, you're allowed to have pancakes for breakfast, but it's weird to have pancakes for lunch. Is it the same thing with, like, O positive?
I don't think so, but there are some blood types that I think I can make into food a little easier. Yes, I do that. Don't judge me.
Oh, this is what the blender was for.
And the ice cream machine.
That's disgusting.
Like I said, don't judge me.
Oh, boy.
Oh goodness, I shouldn't say anything about my eating habits, and if you think that's disgusting, that's straight up elegant compared to my preferred tastes.
I'm not here to judge. I am honestly surprised because up until this moment, I did not know that is how Schmendrick ate.
Not all the time. I mean, you can make anything, really. Well, not anything, obviously, but you can do a lot with blood.
It has the same uses in baking as eggs.
I mean, humans have been eating blood for a while.
Mm-hmm. Any recipe that calls for eggs, you can sub in like 70 grams of blood, and it works just the same.
Is this something Ivy knows or something that you know?
What's the difference?
That's fair and alarming. Well, Josh, are you baking a blood cake or making a blood smoothie? How's your evening going?
I don't exactly have the time or the mental capacity right now to worry about the hunger that has already set itself there. I like to think that my beast has remained calm this particular night because some part of it senses how important this is and knows that we are going to need as little distraction as possible to make sure this goes smoothly.
Well, that's awfully kind of it to give you that breathing room. Joshua is correct, though. Tonight is critically important. Yes, for the Camarilla, yes, for Chicago, but also for the four of you. By roping you into this, the prince has made you culpable for its outcome. Maybe not in a direct way. No one's going to talk about the four Kindred who single-handedly sabotaged the Camarilla entrance, right? But everybody in town knows that you were on the ground level of this thing. If it works out, maybe that turns into job offers, invitations that you didn't think you'd get otherwise. If it doesn't work out, you might find yourself persona non grata in circles that you really need access to. So that said, with the understanding that the coterie has a prearranged meeting point, what's the mood like as our four Kindred assemble maybe 10 or 15 minutes before things are supposed to properly pop off?
It's obvious that something has soured my mood. I'm not exactly open with it. It's not like I'm going to come up and start complaining to everybody, but a real quick look is all it takes to see that there's something making me very unhappy tonight.
It might be the case that Ivy hangs out around like a 4 or 5 level of bitchy, and you're used to that. But now it's like a 7. So even for those of you who expect a certain amount of friction from Ivy LaRue, it's worse tonight.
And knowing her, it might not be a good idea to ask. Yet again, we are working together, so maybe just a little innocent question wouldn't hurt, right?
Do you feel lucky?
Oh gosh, that was so threatening. I think upon seeing Ivy in her particularly standoffish state, I would give her an acknowledging nod and say, "How you feeling about tonight?"
I look at Rebecca and just roll my eyes and kind of shake my head and say, I can only hope that the rest of the Kindred of Chicago are in a better position to vote than I am tonight.
Something going on with your magic friends? Infighting? I mean, of course there's infighting, but more so than usual?
Yeah, we're Tremere, that's what we do. And no, it's it does not matter what I want tonight. At all.
Huh. That doesn't bode well. I mean, really, depending on how things go tonight. We'll see, right?
Yeah, well.
Hey, and push comes to shove, you got us. Coterie and whatnot.
Well, let me tell you, if it comes down to one vote, I will be incredibly upset.
I would say if it comes down to one vote, you have way bigger problems than the fact that Dusable has instructed you how you'll be casting your ballot.
You know what? That's actually very fair.
And what about our other two Kindred?
I don't know if I would call it looking forward to what's about to happen, but I'm at least receptive, I guess would be the best term to use. After all, I am doing my best to make my way in this world, and what better time to do that than the most historically important event in our society for the last several decades, probably, at least.
I mean, it's a hell of a way for a Banu Hakim to come on the scene. When Toreadors release their Childa into the wild, it's usually just a gallery opening, which leaves us with Schmendrick, freshly filled on the smoothie.
Was very good, by the way. I'm nervous, but I'm trying my best to keep that down as best as I can. If I play this right, this could give me the allies I need for the difficulties I might have to come, but it also might give me some enemies, and I'm gonna do my best to take that in stride.
I have to say, between the four of you, Schmendrick is the last person I would expect to be the one coming in tonight with a scheme in mind.
Yeah, that's incredibly far-fetched. At least so far as I know Schmendrick. Which, granted, is not very much, but...
I mean, you call it a scheme, and that might be true, but I prefer to see it as more of a goal.
Ah. Well then, to what goal are you seeking these allies tonight?
I want them to assist me in some way with my circulatory system problem. whether that be purposefully on their parts or just kind of like they do a favor that kind of edges that along. That works for me just as well.
Well, that right there is some basic Kindred 101.
Oh no, I've become one of them.
Maybe.
I'm going to have to edit my journal entry.
Dear Journal, Schmendrick has become a regular Kindred.
Oh, I mean, my journal already has notes on all of you.
Somewhat unsettling.
I wouldn't take it personally. She has notes on everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I assume it's something that has to go back to Dusable at some point.
No,
Oh.
this is just my journal. But I have a bunch of journals, so don't worry about it.
Well, that makes for an interesting blend of emotional states then. A nervous, plotting Schmendrick, a cautiously optimistic Rebecca. Joshua can see the goal from where he is and is playing a political game that I think even he is surprised to find himself in. And Ivy's mood is weighed down by the weight of the whole pyramid. On the whole, I wouldn't call any of that enviable, but you are at least in a better position than Malenkov. As the kindred of the city have yet to assemble, there are precious few people occupying this urban park real estate. You can find Damien, Prince Jackson, Sierra, and their cargo without too much effort. The prince has a certain nervous energy about himself tonight. Now, Kevin Jackson always has a certain frenetic, grandiose gesture about him, the kind of thing you expect from a motivational speaker or a enthusiastic TED talker. It's one of those things they teach you in business school about how to command an audience by being physically engaged. But that's not what's happening tonight. It's not that any of you have seen the prince terribly often, but that said, you've certainly never seen him rocking back and forth on his heels like that, or scanning the perimeter of the park as if watching out for a predator. Damien is also on edge, although he reflects it with a opposite demeanor. There's a quiet stillness in the sheriff, his mind racing more than his body. And between them stands Sierra von Burris, as confident as she has ever been in the righteousness of her cause and the correctness of her decision. She seems impatient, as if what's about to happen tonight is perfunctory beneath her. And she really just wants to fast forward to the part where Malenkov's out and the Lasombra are in. Now, every kindred in Chicago is supposed to be showing up tonight. You're a bit early, and there are no rules that say you have to meet with the prince. But as close to this as you are, I think it goes without saying that it'd be, at the very least, rude not to check in.
To be perfectly honest, after everything we went through, if he does not give us a pat on the back, I'm going to be very upset.
At the very least, a firm handshake is what we deserve for a night's work well done.
So, do you guys want to go get our pat on the back now, later, after Malenkov is dead?
I arch my eyebrow a little bit to the pat on the back and just say, we should probably say hello all the same.
Right, it's a hospitality thing. Gotta greet the host and whatnot.
I take the lead and walk with the group up to Kevin Jackson.
I'm sorry, who?
To the prince. Prince Kevin Jackson.
Thank you.
So sorry, I forgot myself.
Your mother would be very disappointed in you. Well, with nothing else to command his immediate attention, his eyes snap in the direction of the movement just as soon as you round the nearest corner or appear out from behind a cluster of trees. He nods, the kind of quiet, professional greeting. Well, if it isn't my 4 heroes of the night. Good to see you coming along early. I'm sure that puts Damien a bit at ease. It's a big night for all of us.
Just seems to have a bit of gravity about it. Heavy.
Heaviest thing I've ever had to pick up, that's for sure. And I'm a prince.
That's saying something.
Well, at this point, there is as much to gain as there is to lose, and I kind of give Sierra a look before glancing back to Prince Jackson.
Well, you're not wrong there. But for all our differences, the Venture and the Lasombra do have one thing in common. Neither one of us are fans of losing. Isn't that right, Sierra? She snorts. That's agreement enough, I guess.
I take personal pride in not losing.
Well, then I look forward to your full-throated support this evening. Now, I haven't had a chance to check the pulse of every vampire in the city, but based on what the Primogen are telling me and what rumors come up the chain, it's going to be close tonight. Too close.
I just give a wry smile. I don't really want to tell him that I can't vote the way I want to vote.
I think he already knows that. He did make that cheeky remark about you giving your full support to this tonight.
No, I'm not sure if he knows. Maybe he does. Maybe he has an idea, but
In either case, Ivy's made the decision not to bring that up right now.
yep.
It's usually the case with princes. You don't want to bring them problems unless they're problems you've already solved. Then you get the credit.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you're just irritating your boss.
Nobody wants that. All of us in the coterie are strong supporters of the Lasombra joining the Camarilla, sir. And we will do everything that we can to make sure that the vote goes the way that it needs to go.
Well, I'm happy to hear that. After all, it'd be on the wrong side of hilarious for you to go through everything you've been through so far and then turn around at the last minute and make it all for nothing.
I'm not going to lie, it never even crossed my mind that that was a possibility tonight.
He shoots a glance to Damien and said, "You hear that? The Tremere didn't think of something." I'm just fucking with you. It's fine. And speaking of that effort, Damien tells me you all acquitted yourself quite well last night in dealing with this monster now in our possession. Rebecca, Ivy in particular.
I give a little glance to Rebecca, and then I smile at the prince.
I give a warm smile back and nod at the prince as well. It was a group effort, really. We wouldn't have managed to accomplish that without each other.
You might be the only kindred in all of Chicago capable of that level of modesty, Miss Mitchell. Because the way I hear it, the only group involved in the effort was the group of claws on each of your hands.
It wasn't my first time on the battlefield. That experience served us well, I would say.
Yeah, I would say. Does Rosa know you're capable of that kind of thing?
She's familiar with it, yes. We've seen each other in action, so to speak.
Well, I gotta say, it makes me feel just a little bit safer as a prince, knowing I have such a capable soldier to call upon.
I tense a bit as he says, my soldier, but I know better than to speak back to him, especially now. I'll nod acknowledgement, cross my arms, and lean out.
As Rebecca tenses, I kind of bite my lip and stifle a laugh because I know that she hates this and it tickles me.
Who can say if the prince is saying it because it's genuine or because he wants to test people's limits? He's the prince, you can't ask.
I'd be a fool to ask at this point.
But whether out of amusement or genuine appreciation, he doesn't dwell long on the subject. Well, look, I know I've promised you all my gratitude when this is over, and I assure you, you will be rewarded for your service to the city when it's over. So keep your eye on the prize, yeah?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, if you'll excuse me, I have a speech to prepare, Damien has a Lasombra to wrangle, and I don't think it's for the better if we are seen coordinating before things kick off.
Thank you for your time, Prince Jackson.
Always a pleasure.
Ayo.
As the prince leaves, I sidle up between Ivy and Rebecca and just kind of nudge them both with my elbows, go, good job.
Pat on the back feels good.
It wasn't the worst thing. I mean, definitely not the worst thing it could be, but you're right. I did appreciate the pat on the back.
He called you his soldier.
Excuse me while I puke in my mouth. Ugh, gosh, makes my skin crawl. I'm gonna.
Well, either way, he was happy with our performance, and it sounds like there's at least something more to come, so fantastic. I guess now it's just a waiting game.
On the bright side, you don't have to wait very long at all. The prince does distance himself from the coterie, although all motion is relative, so that's more about the coterie giving the prince space than the other way around. And over the next 10 or 15 minutes, the Kindred of Chicago assemble. There's never been an official census, so to speak, but there are roughly 90 of you. 90 blood-sucking leeches inside the city of Chicago. That the prince made clear that the Thin Bloods weren't invited this evening, but everybody else has no reason to miss tonight's event. As is typical for these types of events, you see them dividing themselves into familiar social groups. By clan, of course, but amongst the larger clans, even into little sub-factions. The inner circle of Ventru versus the outer circle of Ventru. The Anarch leadership versus their hangers-on. The Nosferatu, of course, are always cloistered when the opportunity presents itself. Likewise the Tremere. And as is fitting, those clans on the fringe of political power are on the fringe of your little park meeting. The Ministry, the Banu Hakim, the Gangrel. It has a similar vibe to the cocktail hour before any important meeting, although there aren't any cocktails and the mood is a bit too serious considering the gravity of things to come. But eventually the hour arrives. The official start time, ordered by the prince, spread by the harpy, drilled into every kindred. And slowly but surely, all of Chicago's night-walking denizens filter into a circle around the prince. For many of you, this will be the most kindred you've seen in one place in your entire life. And it's bad enough when a handful of you get together, clashing egos, clashing beasts. But the energy in this gathering right now feels like a nuclear weapon that's ready to be fused. That if you jostle it in any one direction, if you hit it just a little too hard, the resulting explosion would tear the city down. It takes a special kind of person to command that kind of crowd and to temper that kind of energy. And as he begins to speak, you understand why Kevin Jackson is that man. Brothers and sisters, please accept my sincere apology for taking up another of your nights. I'm aware you're all busy, but I guarantee this trip to the woods will be worth it. Yesterday, my speech was interrupted by Lasombra with a very important message from her clan. A message that, potentially, will change our history. The Clan of Night, longtime enemies, wish to join our ranks. Of course, my first response was dismissive. However, at this point, the prince turns directly to Joshua. My friend Mr. Crozier here came with a proposition that I found very interesting, perhaps even plausible. But I wouldn't want to take credit for his idea or his words. Mr. Crozier, why don't you speak firsthand about the plan you have for Clan Lasombra?
Any members of Clan Lasombra wishing to join the Camarilla must prove their allegiance to the Camarilla, and as such, each and every one will deliver us a Sabbat elder, staked, ready for execution.
You can feel the wave coursing through the crowd, peaks of excitement, troughs of revulsion. In one moment, with a dozen words, Joshua has set every kindred mind in Chicago turning, scheming, spewing out the smoke of Machiavellian manipulation. The prince gives it a few seconds before continuing. Now, much to my surprise, Sierra Van Burris, as representative of the Magisters, has agreed to these terms. Now, though I may be prince of our blessed city, I'm not going to make this decision single-handedly. I'm no tyrant. I'm not like some of those princes in other cities. Instead, every individual present tonight, fledgling, elder, neonate, and ancilla, has a say. Now, it's a simple question. Do we accept the Lasombra and the potential murder of hundreds of our kind when we extend the olive branch and take advantage of new alliances? Or will we continue the war between Camarilla and Sabbat that has decimated our ranks for centuries? Whatever we decide will be consecrated with Mr. Malenkov here. He gestures to the vampire you subdued, still staked, now perched atop a pyre of dry pine. He's an example of what the Clan Lasombra needs to purge from its ranks, kind of people who our new Lasombra allies will bring to us. I don't want to keep you here all night, but I also don't want to rush this decision. 2 hours. You give me 2 hours of your time to deliberate, to figure out what your unbeating heart has to say about this moment in history, and we'll go from there. At the end of that period, I'll ask each of you to submit your votes to your primogen, the eldest among you, and then that's it. You'll see what the dice have to say for this city. The crowd gives the prince a bit of due diligence. 10 or 15 seconds, waiting to see if that was a dramatic pause or if he'd finished his speech for now. And when it becomes clear that the prince has no further instructions, that deathly silence breaks into the loud talking, shouting, bitter spit fighting of nearly 100 kindred. The prince raises his voice. Oh, now. We've all got our opinions. We don't need to share them so loudly right on top of one another. There's plenty of park. 2 hours. And with various amounts of murmuring, nodding, resentment, or agreement, Chicago's kindred again disperse into their respective corners, their debates and arguments now limited to those of their own social circles and clans. The prince isn't going to get involved personally. That would be improper. But there is one last thing he manages before the crowd has fully dispersed. His eyes find the coteries. He tosses you a wink.
Sly motherfucker.
Always a catch with these types.
I'd say that's our cue.
Well, gang, you've got your orders. What's the plan?
Well, as Prince Jackson said, he's not really sure where the vote lies, and he thinks it's going to be close. So since we kind of have a, I'm hesitant to call it a goal, but since we do kind of have a goal for this evening, I think it's going to be really important to figure out the lay of the land, figure out what groups are voting which way, and who we can kind of turn to our side if possible.
I think that's a really great idea. I have been watching the people file in and kind of trying to get a judge of people, but I think maybe the other Nosferatu may have more of a understanding of the situation than I would, or at least can offer some insight. So I might go talk with them.
It's classic advice. If you have something you want to know, find a Nosferatu.
As I walk over to the Nosferatu grouping, I of course greet everyone because they're my family. Whether or not I know them, they are indeed my family. But the person I'm looking for specifically is Edith Beaubien.
Ah, Edith Beaubien, proprietor of the Painted Lady, Chicago's most famous and also infamous tattoo parlor. That wasn't where you were a client.
Not a client yet, but I hope to be. I was actually dragged along as someone's +1 for a exclusive party a little over a week ago now.
Oh, well, I have to know, who did you sucker into taking you to the Painted Lady?
So it was shortly after I came to Chicago, and I was kind of just invited by some of the Nosferatu here as a, hey, welcome to town, you got to see this place.
And they were right.
Oh, heck yeah, they were right. It was a little frisky, a little beyond what I am used to. That's not what intrigued me, though. See, there was this beautiful woman running the whole show. Her name was Edith, as I've already mentioned. But as the night drew to a close and all the human patrons began to shuffle out, she transformed, like, completely. It's the first time I've seen any kind of obfuscate of this sort. She just turned completely into this lanky, yet athletic-looking, bony Nosferatu. Like, she was just like me, and I found it absolutely incredible. And that's what really caught my attention, was her ability to use obfuscate to that level.
In one moment, you're watching a busty, curvy, creamy-skinned Southern belle doing tattoos, and the next minute you're staring into the literal maw of the abyss.
Nothing but respect for those types of skills.
Well, you are lucky in that you were introduced. Edith tends to keep very particular company, doesn't want to have too many hangers-on or sycophants bothering her under the guise of vampire business. But having been properly introduced, you have an advantage in that she won't immediately try to find something else to be doing.
Yeah, for that I am rather lucky, but I have to worry because I'm going to bother her about political stuff. Granted, she is here, so politics is bound to find her.
Yeah, it's a bit why everyone's around. I'm sure she'll understand.
With confidence, I will walk up to Edith and say, hello, Edith. It's been a bit. I have to say, I loved your party last week. Absolutely amazing.
Oh, darling, thank you for saying so. I take a great amount of pride in putting on a good show. It's, Schmendrick, was it?
Yeah, Edith, my name is Schmendrick. We only met briefly, but big fan.
Well, it's always nice to have your work appreciated, even if it is in these circumstances. She rolls her eyes. I can't help but notice that you've been one of the prince's favorites in dealing with this whole thing.
I give her this sheepish little look like I want to say I don't want to be here or be involved, but I am biting my tongue. And I just go, well, you know how things are.
Oh, better than most, darling. Besides, we're Nosferatu. It always takes something strange to get us involved in the big picture.
This is one of the strangest, that's for sure. Not exactly what I pictured myself doing shortly after arriving in the city.
Oh no, I imagine not. Word on the street is there are several kindred, even those among our clan who are jealous of the access you've managed to cultivate.
Oh, now I feel bad.
Oh, don't feel bad. You have to wear it like a badge of honor. You have power now. There's no shame in wielding it.
I give her a bit of a smile at that and say, I'll give it a try. I had actually come over here to ask you what your opinion on all of this was.
She smiles a bit. It's deeply unsettling to watch her mouth move the way that it does. And somehow, no matter which shape her brows take, it doesn't make those acid green eyes look any more welcoming. But the voice that comes out is pleasant enough. Oh, we're all outsiders. The Nosferatu understand what it's like to be on the wrong side of power, and we know the kind of things you have to do to get on the right side of it. It wasn't that long ago that princes were making similar demands of our type in order to stay in their domain. Lest the Masquerade be threatened. If you ask me, I say give him a chance. We were given a chance. It turned out well enough. And as far as I know, there aren't any among our number who disagree.
I'm glad to see most of our clan is on the same page in that regard. I would rather, in my opinion, see them join than to continue to be our enemies. I think there's something definitely to be gained.
Oh, no one likes war, sweetie. At the very least, it makes it harder for me to schedule tattoo appointments.
No doubt, and it'd be really uncomfortable if there was a Lasombra raid in the middle of the night.
Right? See, it's better for everybody.
Have you heard anything about how the other clans are leading?
Oh, I have my ears pressed to the ground from time to time. And in a slightly Schmendrick move, she waggles hers. They're larger, balder, but don't worry, it'll come with age. As I understand it, the Ventru are also in favor. First, because they're all too busy trying to chase Prince Jackson's whims, curry favor with their king. But also, they can recognize value when value exists. And worse comes to worse, I'm sure Alan Sovereign and his lot would gleefully take over whatever remains of the Lasombra if they can't pull their own weight.
I imagine the potential profit to be made tickles them.
Oh, I try not to think about how tickled the Ventru get when money's on the line.
I offer a little chuckle at that.
I can't say for certain, but I expect the Anarchs will be opposed, if only because Prince Jackson wants it to happen. It remains to be seen whether Critias can round them up into following the educated man's decision. Ugh, but with his commitment to democracy, I can't imagine him trying that kind of thing. Aside from that, the only person I've heard vocally opposed is the Malkavian Primogen. I don't know what's gotten underneath sun, but he's not at all happy at the prospect.
Does he have a reason for this? Well, I can't imagine there's much reason there, but I am curious.
Oh, I wouldn't be so dismissive. Every kindred has their reasons. I try not to think about getting into Sun's head. Malkavians. But regardless of his motivations, it seems he is currently very interested in whipping his clan along to seeing things his way.
So there's some division then?
That remains to be seen. Maybe he'll convince them, maybe he won't. In either case, he is the one who gets to report the votes.
Right. That is a little bit of a problem then. Well, we'll see how tonight rolls out.
Well, if there's one thing that you can count on in this world, it's some kindred right now is finding a way to screw everything up for everybody else. If it's Newberry tonight, so be it.
Well, thank you very much, Edith, for your input. I'm going to need it, if I'm honest. It seems as though I've been tasked with making this successful, among other things. And while it does align with my beliefs, it's a heck of a task.
I, for one, do not envy your position. I am curious, though, you could have heard all of this from Cedric, even Charles. Is politics the only thing on your mind tonight, Schmendrick?
To be perfectly honest, I don't know if this is too forward, but I would like to learn from you to a degree. But that certainly isn't something that we need to discuss tonight.
You're not interested in taking up the artistic pursuit, are you?
No, I don't think that part of it really suits me. I'm looking to learn how to conceal myself in the ways you do.
Ah, a different art, as it were.
Yes.
Well, if you'll indulge me, were you talking about this? And the second that syllable departs from her lips, Edith vanishes entirely from your view. 1, 2, 3 seconds pass from behind you. Or this, and when you turn around, a beautiful, curvy, rich human woman smiling at you.
I tap my cheek a couple of times, a grin widening across my face, and say, that's the one. There's something I need to do, and that's the only way I can accomplish it.
Well, I can't say I make a habit of taking students under my wing, but I'm also a sucker for a good story. Why don't you swing by the parlor sometime, tell me what it is you're after, and we'll see what we can come up with.
That sounds good. Again, thank you so much for your assistance tonight. Should probably make it back and let them all know what the plan of attack should be.
Oh, as you like, but one last little thing.
Of course.
You don't have to be so deferential. I'm a tattoo artist, not the prince. We're all family.
I guess I still have those new kid jitters.
Well, in addition to these powers, maybe we'll see if we can fix that too.
That might actually be something that works in my favor.
Well, off you go then before people get suspicious. Do drop in, though.
I can't wait. And with that, I will return to the group.
Part of the group, anyway. Joshua, the night is young and there are schemes aplenty. What's occupying your agenda for the evening?
I think it is only fitting and fair that I would scope out wherever Khadijah is standing around and go chat her up a bit.
Returning to the old political well, as it were. Well, Khadijah isn't hard to find. You need only look where other people aren't. Khadijah is an ambassador of the Ashira. She is not a member of the Camarilla, and by the strictest definitions that Prince Jackson laid out, she shouldn't have a vote. But also, with something this important, well, it would be remiss of her to be absent for the deliberations, right? And thus, your Banu Hakim clanmate is content to sit at the fringes of tonight's meeting, watching and listening, but not participating. In fact, when you go up to see her, you're probably the first vampire who's been in that part of the woods for the whole night so far.
Khadijah, I trust these past couple nights have treated you well?
Indeed, Mr. Crozier. Eventful times, of course, but let it never be said that we don't occasionally appreciate a break from the ordinary.
Yeah, well, I might have said the same if I wasn't caught up in the middle of events, as it were.
As I understand, that's something of an understatement, Mr. Crozier. Tonight's events have your fingerprints all over them, don't they?
They do. If I can ask, Khadijah, what do you make of all this? The Lasombra, the joining?
Well, I will first confess to not having perfect knowledge of the Lasombra or the circumstances that bring them here, but anyone with their eyes to the east can venture a wise enough guess. The Sabbat are crumbling. They die by the thousands in the sands that my sect calls home. And those Lasombra who are still sane enough to resist the zealotry of their comrades seek a safer home. I would call it rats from a sinking ship, but I don't think the Nosferatu would appreciate the comparison.
So, the Sabbat crumbling, the Lasombra leaving being both a symptom and a cause. It sounds like you're all for the Lasombra joining the Camarilla then.
Well, let's not be too hasty, Mr. Crozier. I wonder, perhaps you can solve this puzzle on your own. At the moment, which clan is the youngest with the most to prove in the Camarilla?
That would be us.
Indeed. And wouldn't you think it wiser if we were allowed to distinguish ourselves and set about the process of influencing the Ivory Tower without competition from another young upstart clan with things to prove?
It's an interesting way of thinking about it. Let me, if I may,
Of course.
offer you another way of thinking about it. We are the new kids on the block, so to say, and we have a lot to prove. The Lasombra, eager as some of them may be to join, as much as they are willing to sacrifice, there will be troublemakers. I'm not sure how much you know about what happened with Malenkov, but he is a poster child of that. And to my mind, what better way to prove ourselves as upholders of the Camarilla ideal than to punish those who would leave the line?
Well, I do understand the genesis of that idea, Joshua. I do wonder if you're not giving the proper amount of caution to the risk at play. Is it your sincere belief that the Banu Hakim, as we are, will be able to adequately police the Lasombra? There are only 3 of us, 2 of which are sworn ambassadors to the Ashira and not subject to the prince's whims.
Sure enough. If all goes well, hopefully within the next few nights I will be a hound, or something rather like it. And a little advanced knowledge goes a long way when it comes to policing.
Ever the detective, are we, Mr. Crozier? You said you were from Boston, yes? You worked on their police department?
That's right.
And in your career as an officer of the law, what percentage of your time did you feel you were properly resourced, given all the time and equipment and information you needed to conduct your business at its fullest potential?
Quite rarely. Oftentimes, it's not the resources or the intel that matters. It's how much you're able to do with very little of it.
Then you're asking the Banu Hakim to put a tremendous amount of faith in your ingenuity and ability to survive on the streets. Is that correct?
That would be correct.
And meaning no disrespect, Mr. Crozier, the entire city has seen what you're capable of, and the prince and his many subjects are, of course, grateful, but you are but one man. I appreciate, of course, your enthusiasm for the work, and it no doubt brings pleasure to Hakim that you wish to serve him with such zeal. But against the kinds of numbers the Lasombra threaten to overwhelm this city with, I think you'll understand if I don't give you my formal support.
I hope it is not disrespectful if I speak honestly and say I rather hoped you would, but I do understand why you cannot.
Well, don't be so dour, Mr. Crozier. As I understand it, some clans in this city are ordering the younger of their number to vote in certain ways. I make no such command. You are free to pursue your own goals this evening, through persuasion, of course, through your own vote. You have asked for my counsel, and I have given it, but you are not bound to my will.
I thank you for your blessing.
Of course, Mr. Crozier. And I hope for both our sakes that, if you do prevail this evening, you prove as capable as you seem to think you are.
Thank you for that, Khadijah. It's my hope that I am able to do Hakim's will as I intend.
Then I suppose all there is now is for you to go rustle up a few votes and for us to wait. Good luck, Mr. Crozier.
Good night, Khadijah.
Well, with Schmendrick off fangirling and Joshua busy further ingratiating himself to Khadijah, Rebecca, what are you up to in the meantime?
I'm certainly not an information broker the way that Schmendrick is, but at the very least I can account for some of my other clan members. I'm going to speak with Rosa.
Well, the Gangrel aren't the least populated clan in the city of Chicago, but they are certainly in a race for that number. Then again, every vote counts.
And if it's like Ivy said, by one vote, might just be the one that saves our friends.
Well, let's hope you can get Rosa on your side.
I would head over to where they've all gathered for the night. Make introductions, as it were. Hey there, Rosa.
The gangrel primogen gives you a bit of a smile, a bit of a nod. Hey, killer.
Oh gosh, killer. It's a little, bit of hyperbole there, I'd say.
I don't know. I saw Malenkov when I came in tonight. Looks pretty dead to me. You know, more than usual.
I was about to say. Also had a witch helping me there, but what can I say? Just a bit of a natural talent of mine.
Yeah, I'll say. Claw marks that deep, that'd take some doing.
It's been a long while since I was on the warpath. Believe me, it was much a shock to me as it is to you. But I'm glad that it stopped anything else from happening, regardless of the carnage.
Oh, yeah, no, of course. The violence is impressive because it stopped carnage. That's what we were going for. Anyway, what can I do for you tonight, kid?
It's actually going to talk to you about Malenkov himself. More accurately, his clan members. What's the feeling on him? The vote?
Well, in order, I think we should have started this whole party with lighting Malenkov on fire. The sooner rid of him, the better.
Agreed.
But Sierra, the rest of them, I don't know. People can be different. There's plenty of gangrel who've left the Camarilla, plenty of gangrel who want to stay. You and I know better than most that clans don't think alike all the time, and if she can be redeemed, people like her can be redeemed. Camarilla needs soldiers. Camarilla needs friends. I'm not going to say no to that.
My thoughts exactly. And at the price that they're paying, you'd think that they'd be loyal.
You'd be surprised what Kindred are capable of when survival's on the line. Or maybe you wouldn't.
You'd think for the sake of survival we'd all be more united in this front, death and whatnot being the great uniters, they call it. But here we all are, still divided, making a show of it all.
Yeah, well, it's a little hard to be united when the thing that wants to kill you is the other half of your species.
Fair enough. I have to say it's not the only thing that's trying to kill us, or even the most pressing thing.
All right, my little huntress. Must have been a real pain having to take a week off from your real goals in the city.
Of course. Not for want of trying. I actually spoke with Anita about it the other night.
Really?
You know, before you say it, you know I don't play those kinds of games. It's not my... Never liked it. Never have, never will. But she offered some pretty good advice, and regardless of Anarch Camarilla, we have the same goal in mind. I have a feeling that Garu don't really care about who you're aligned with when you're ripping out their throats.
Yeah, that's a good point. Although I don't think it's the Garu you have to worry about when it comes to picking sides. But hey, if it ends in dead werewolves, I can't complain. At the end of the day, I don't think the prince will either.
I believe the term is the more the merrier? More dead werewolves, more joining us. The way I see it, beneficial all the way around. I suppose I should be up front then. We could always use someone else to help us. Hunt. Chicago would have fallen without your strategizing your strength, and with the three of us, we could do some real damage.
Whoa. Let me just stop you there for a second.
Sorry?
First of all, you don't have to butter me up, but also, look, I love your passion for this kind of thing. Definitely on your side. But if you think a Camarilla primogen can go palling around with the leader of the Anarchs without consequences, you really do need to pay a little more attention to those politics meetings.
You said it yourself, if it ends in dead werewolves, does it really matter who we're allied with? But I can understand where you're coming from, especially with your position. But the offer remains.
What if I could, Chica? But it's not my decision at the end of the day. You want to have a fun girls' night hunting werewolves? I'm all for it. Just gotta get the prince on board.
Right, hunting license.
Yeah, that's funny. We should call it that.
But I do look forward to hunting with each other if we can one of these nights.
Rosa just takes a long drag from her cigarette, shrugs, exhales. What means that much to you, I'm sure she'll figure out a way to make it happen.
I most definitely will. Well, I figured out where my clan is leaning, and Rosa, there's something starting there, but there's nothing else here. I think it's time that I stalked out.
Well, with Schmendrick having departed and Rebecca having gone her own way, that leaves Joshua and Ivy alone together. Oh boy. What's going on over there?
There's a thought in my mind. The idea of allowing Primogen to report the votes. Something about it doesn't sit well with me.
What is the nature of your concern?
It's just asking for the vote to be manipulated. Obviously, there are people here for it and people against it, and I don't know for sure. I mean, some of those manipulations might even play in our favor, but I don't know that I'm willing to risk it.
Then what is an enterprising young Banu Hakim to do about that?
I kind of weigh my options and decide that the least bad one right now, surprisingly, is to turn and talk to Ivy.
Oh my god.
Aw.
How bad were the other options?
Thank you.
Pretty bad, truth be told.
Aw, thank you.
So I would turn to Ivy and say, what do you think of all this?
All of what? The voting? The ritual sacrifice of Malenkov?
Well, I know full well how you feel about the ritual sacrifice of Malenkov. Yes, the
Yeah,
voting.
That's a very fair point. The voting. Let's just say that I just hope that Schmendrick and Rebecca are gaining some ground with different clans right now. Honestly, I'm not super happy about it. Dusable made it very clear that I don't really get a choice here. So it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to know that I am about to be thrown into a situation where I have to vote a specific way just because my regent demands it.
That's exactly why I ask. I've been thinking about this, right? And I sincerely doubt that you're unique in that. I mean, Newberry is already out there ham-fisting his subjects into voting the way he wants, and there's nothing they can do about it. Ivy, if we're going to do this, I think we need to change how the votes are counted at all.
Okay. What do you have in mind?
Well, we know the Primogen can't be trusted, so what if we ask the prince to send court officers around, maybe Damien, and collect the votes from each individual rather than taking it all from the Primogen's mouth?
Okay. Yes, but also no. I love the idea. Can I add on to it?
I mean, I'm not the prince. Yeah.
Okay. So imagine that exact scenario, but it's a secret ballot. Dusable expects all of the Tremere to vote his way. It's a Tremere thing. If we make it a secret ballot, it removes the pressure off of each individual kindred. Then I could vote against Dusable without him knowing that I voted against him. Because of course, no, Regent, why would I vote against you? Of course I voted the same way you expected me to.
The Tremere is going her own way.
To be clear, it's just against Dusable. He and I we don't always see eye to eye. This is one of those times. And
I like how you can hear in Ivy's voice how difficult it is to justify going against the pyramid just now.
it actually hurts. It hurts me deep inside to even say these words.
Oh, yes, it's just going against the most powerful Tremere in Chicago. Yeah, okay. That mitigates everything.
I mean, I think that you're overestimating Dusable's power a little bit. Like, sure, yes, he's very powerful, but may also have just been a right place at the right time situation. Anyway, not the time or the place to talk about this here. So, a secret ballot.
Yeah, secret ballot. It sounds like a good idea to me.
Well, Josh, lead on. Let's take it to the prince and see what he has to say. Hopefully he agrees.
Leading on, I will approach the prince wherever he's chosen to perch up here, and I will say, Prince Jackson, we have a problem, and we also have a proposition about how to fix it.
Oh, I don't like problems, Joshua.
Do you like propositions about how to fix them?
That depends a lot on the quality of what you have to say. But go ahead, I'm listening.
What has come to our attention is that certain unnamed Primogen here tonight are strong-arming those beneath them into voting the way they want. current forecast says that those votes aren't the way we want. Ivy and I have kind of tossed this back and forth, and we think that the way to go is a secret ballot.
I see. Well, I'm guessing by your presence that half of these problems are Tremere problems, yes?
Of course not, Prince Jackson. I would never vote against the Regent and the Pyramid.
Oh, that I like. Can you do that again?
No, of course not, Prince Jackson. I would never vote against the Regent and the Pyramid.
Oh, Tremere infighting in public. Love to see it. No, I think that's a good idea. 2 problems. 1, how are we going to get people separated enough from their primogen to write that kind of thing down? 2nd, who picks up the ballots? Because the last thing I want is this vote to go some way and have any kindred out here screaming about the result, saying that we've lost a few slips of paper.
Well, I don't see why we couldn't announce that a certain little cordoned off corner of the park is our designated voting area, and when you're ready to cast your vote, come on over and cast it. As for picking up the votes, well, I can do it.
I like half of that. I appreciate you being willing to step up on that one, but I think we need to keep your hands a little cleaner when it comes to direct involvement. And we can't have people dropping off ballots in front of me because I need to keep my hands clean too. You know who I need on this one? You know who is unimpeachable on matters of democracy? This is a Critias issue. Yeah. All right, Mr. Crozier, you've got me sold. If you'll go let our Bruja friend know that he is now the custodian of Chicago's Kindred democracy, we'll let him collect the ballots.
I'll let him know. Thank you, Prince Jackson.
Oh no, Mr. Crozier. Thank you.
I can take it if you like.
Sure. I do have some other fish to fry anyway.
Fantastic. And I'll turn around on my heels and head off to find Critias.
Oh, wait, hang on. And I will take a few brisk steps to catch up with Ivy, and from my pocket, I will pull a well-worn pocket notebook, tear out about half the pages, and hand them to Ivy. We need something to write the votes on.
You got a pen?
I reach into the same pocket and extract my personal pen. I don't expect to see it again after this, but it's just a pen.
I take the pen and the paper and I nod and say thanks. I'll tell Critias to return it, whether or not he does.
Well, Critias is a man of honor. He'll certainly see the pen returned to its rightful owner. So Ivy wanders off to tell an ancient Bruja that he is now responsible for playing the role of polling place. Joshua has other schemes to pursue. So, Rebecca, all of your friends are on their own little adventures. You too, I take it, have things you'd like to accomplish. Unfortunately, the very moment you decide to slip away from the coterie and go about your own errands, you're interrupted. Now, you would recognize Genghis' face anywhere. That stare down you had back at the Mohawk has probably burned his visage into the back of your brain like an old TV left on the same channel for too long. And judging by the exquisitely wide grin on his face, and the way he's steepling his fingers as he stands directly in your path, you can assume he's up to no good.
Is he ever up to any good?
That's a fair point.
Better see what he wants, then.
Oh, he stands there. He's not going to give you the satisfaction of being the first one to speak. He's just there, blocking your path, occupying that space.
He's enjoying this too much. I'd give him a raised eyebrow, crossed arms. Definitely not happy to see him, but he's clearly got something to say.
We're just gonna have a little stare down here in the middle of the meeting.
A battle of wills, maybe. I'm not about to ask why he's here. I hope that's not what he's here for, but might as well find out. Genghis?
Rebecca?
If I may inquire, what do I have the pleasure of meeting you here tonight?
Oh, it's a pleasure now. I gotta say, I didn't expect that. I didn't come prepared for that kind of reception.
We're out in public, in front of the prince. I'm trying to be civil. Just tell me what you want, Genjus.
Well, all right. No need to get upset. I know Daddy's watching. Just figured that you and we had some business left unsettled after your visit to my little bar. And I thought now, while other business is being accomplished, now would be the right time to settle some debts.
Please don't tell me you're going to ask me to make a scene. It's not in front of the prince. I don't want any more trouble.
No. Rest easy, little doggy. I'm not going to make you bark up the wrong tree. It's a small favor, one that you owe me when you swore that solemn oath of prestation. Cashing in a boon, that's all.
Very well. What is it you ask of me, then?
Well, I don't want you to rush directly to business. That seems impolite. Or at least, people like you keep telling me it's impolite. Before that, I have one little question, if you'll indulge me.
I'm standing here listening, am I not?
Now, whole city knows you've been a busy little bee running errands for the prince. And when you came and talked to me, you didn't know what they wanted or why. How long did they keep you out of the loop on this little Lasombra smuggling operation?
I figured out what Lasombra's purpose in Chicago was the moment everyone else did. So far as I was concerned, it was a diplomatic mission.
Yeah, well, you got that right at least. But you're going to look me in the eye right now and tell me that when you asked for little old Ganges to stay out of your way, you had no idea who was coming.
I'm going to square my shoulders, give him that ancient do not fuck with me stare, and say, I didn't. I don't play their games.
All right. I believe you. And now that they're here, you're going to throw the doors open for them?
I think they could do well under Camarilla's supervision, but truly depends on the price they're willing to pay, and the price they're paying is a high one.
Under Camarilla's supervision, does Anita know you talk like this when she's not around?
I'm not saying that I support the move, but I can see the reasoning behind it.
You can see the need that some people are just too much of animals to be left to their own devices, right? They need to have their betters build little cages and walls around them so they'll behave.
I beg your pardon?
That's what you're saying? Saying Lasombra can't be trusted to act on their own. They need a nice Camarilla dungeon to live in until they've demonstrated they can be civilized.
They're coming in as equals, and the price they're paying is one I cannot imagine giving myself. It's hardly a matter of master and leash holder. But I understand your principles.
I'm not entirely sure that you do, but that's okay. I don't understand you, Rebecca. A person like you, where you come from, you're the last person I would expect to be running errands for the prince. The last person I would expect to bend the knee. But, hey, we're all different, right? No two vampires have the same social DNA, and it's rude to traffic in stereotypes. Besides, I'm not actually here to talk about your opinions as to whether or not the Lasombra should be allowed to live with us or not. I'm here to tell you that I'm cashing in my boon, and you're going to tell people that they should vote against this nonsense.
You're kidding me. I ask you to do nothing for one night, and you're... Fine. A boon's a boon. I'll do it. I have a sense of honor, unlike some of us, Genjus.
I haven't done anything wrong, Rebecca. You said, I'll do you a favor if you stay out of the prince's hair. I upheld my end of the bargain. Now it's time for you to uphold yours.
I will. don't doubt that.
Good. Because I would hate to see what would happen if, for example, you let your little witch friend or your little sewer rat friend talk you out of this, or try to manipulate circumstances such that you didn't have to fulfill our arrangement. I don't think you want me whispering in Anita's ear about the kind of person you are, if that happens.
I wouldn't. And trust me, my word's not as thin as paper, Kenjis. You can take me by it.
Glad to hear it. In that case, please, allow me to get out of your way and let you go on about the rest of your night.
Of course, I've quite the night ahead of me now. Lots of talking to do.
Bark, bark, little doggy.
I'm not your little doggy. I'm not anyone's doggy.
The prince know that? I'm just saying, if the prince knows that, he doesn't act like it. And for someone who doesn't want to be led around on a leash, you are letting the court do a whole lot of jerking your chain.
Leashes can be pulled from both ends, you'll find.
Counterpoint. Why wear a leash at all? And he reaches up from his sides, sticks his thumbs under his collar and lifts. I'm just saying, Rebecca, there's a better way.
I don't disagree with you, but I also don't want needless conflict.
Well, that I do believe. But eventually there will be a need for conflict.
Malenkov saw that need. Don't worry.
All right. I see I'm not going to change your mind on the subject. Not going to drag you into any more of a debate about things. After all, we're just engaging in some good old-fashioned favor trading. You have agreed, and there's no need to get any further into it. Enjoy the rest of your night, Rebecca.
You too as well. And don't worry. Your word will be kept.
Glad to hear it. And finally, he steps aside, making a very grand gesture, bowing down, arm extended, inviting you to pass.
I'm just gonna furrow my brows and stomp past. Shit. Tonight just got a lot more difficult.
A little bit, yeah. I'm going to tell the others about this?
Well, we're a coterie now, and considering that I'm actively working against our interests, it'd be dishonest not to. And I don't think subterfuge is the best way to start out a business relationship.
Maybe. Maybe not. I see why Rebecca feels that way. I'm not sure if the coterie will agree, but that makes it just as good a time as any for you all to check in with one another, right? Rebecca, at the very least, has some very interesting news to share.
Not looking forward to sharing it with the rest of the class.
What's the worst that could happen? You've been ordered by an anarch to betray your own conscience and the will of the prince and the opinions of your coterie?
At the very least, I'm not Malenkov, right? Could be worse. Far worse.
Well, let's not rule out you being thrown on a fire too soon. In any case, how are you going to break the news?
Honestly, I think I would wait for everyone to speak their points and then mention, well, I can't help with any of that because Gen just pulled his favor.
Very well. Rebecca has chosen to pass in bad news initiative order. I suppose that means one of the rest of you will have to step up.
Of course, I don't waste a whole lot of time once I find my way back to the coterie. So here's the deal. From what I understand, the Ventru, Toreador, and the Nosferatu are all voting in favor. Sun is trying for his whole clan to basically say that they are against. But I'm not sure if they are all wanting to vote that way. And, of course, the Anarchs are opposed.
Well, good news for you is that we've already nipped that problem in the bud.
Which problem specifically?
The Malkavian problem.
Oh, okay. How'd you plan that?
We talked to the prince. He's going to have Critias run a secret ballot. Everyone can vote however they want. No fear of reprisal. Problem solved.
Nice.
Solves the Malkavian problem. Solves my problem. Very happy about this.
Well, that's good to hear, because, well, goodness, how am I gonna begin? So, you all remember Genghis, right?
Unfortunately.
Yeah, real bastard, got a smile like Matty. And I think you recall that I owe him something for his not interrupting our guests the night they came into town.
Okay.
Mm,
Well, tonight he called in that favor, and he expects me to sway votes away from allowing the Lasombra to enter.
Are you a good liar, Rebecca?
Oh, creator, no, I am definitely not. Have you seen me?
Okay. Well, how about this? How about you tell him the truth? You did your best to fulfill his ask to sway votes against the joining the Lasombra, but what you didn't know was that the voting system had changed entirely, in such a way that your efforts at intimidation or persuasion were more or less meaningless. How about that?
Yeah, I think that could work. I don't have to break the oath. I stay true to my word, plain and ignorant.
Honestly, I would suggest you fulfill your boon to the best of your ability. I know it kind of messes with everything we're after here, but I would hate to be known as the person that half-assed a boon.
I wasn't intending on it, believe me.
I think we're just about to get very, very lucky that Rebecca's not very good at convincing people to do things.
Not with her words.
Not with her words, no.
I mean, that is definitely points in our favors. No offense, Rebecca, but your claws are far more persuasive.
None taken. It was just me, Silas, in the open desert for almost 2 centuries. Didn't exactly have time to brush up on etiquette. Or at least modern etiquette, whatever that is.
Oh, I know, sweetie, I know.
Fortune seems to favor you then. Of all the people who could end up in debt to Genghis, it's the least effective orator among you. Of course, Schmendrick is right. If you can't at least make a show of giving it your best effort, Genghis is going to use that to drag your name through all the mud. One of the prince's favorites won't respect prestation, trying to squeal her way out of a boon. Oh, I'd never.
Sometimes I wish that balcony had been significantly higher.
I wish you'd shoved him a little harder, honestly, but I'm a woman of my word. Do what I can. Of course, compared to the rest of you, and I give a little wink. I don't think my efforts are going to come up to scratch.
Before we break the team huddle, I would actually extend a hand to Rebecca and say, "May the best woman win." And I guess Joshua.
I take it with a laugh and give her a firm handshake. Indeed, may the best kindred gather the most votes.
See, that's what I like about our coterie. We kind of understand our differences, and I like that I'm at least accepting of whether or not Rebecca goes through with this.
It makes for great radio.
What's a radio?
Yes. And on the topic of out-of-touch elders, Ivy, you seem to have bested Regent Dusable, at least for the time being. I'm sure you're eager to share the good news.
The more people that we have that know about the secret ballot means that we can get a lot more people to make up their minds the way we want them to a little bit ahead of time.
I like that line. The more people who know about the secret ballot, the more of them will do what we want them to do, instead of what other people want them to do.
Uh-huh, exactly. What's the problem?
I offer no judgment, only commentary. If I can dare to venture a guess, I think I have a fairly good idea of the first people Ivy is going to share this development with.
The Malkavians?
And it seems I have a better idea of it than you do.
No, as soon as the idea of the secret ballot came to me, I knew that I would have to go and at least speak to the other Tremere. Not Dusable, obviously. If he asks, of course we're all voting the same way. But there's at least one other Tremere in Chicago who doesn't exactly see eye to eye with Dusable on a lot of things either. And I think I might be able to get her vote. So I would actually like to go over to where the Tremere are clustered and meet up with Sun Che.
Miss Sun Che, the other young, beautiful female Tremere.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because you have Dusable and then you have just really beautiful, powerful female Tremere. Anyway, sorry, not the time or the place.
I mean, hey, you raise a good point. Maybe that's something a enterprising and investigative young mind should attempt to get to the bottom of. But you are correct. This is probably not the right time. In any case, indeed, Sun Che is sitting amongst the Tremere. Of course, Regent Dusable holding court, keeping a close eye on his subordinates. Erictho, the ancient and aloof witch. Portia, of course, looking bored. And Sun Che. She adds a much-needed shot of diversity to the Tremere chantry. Petite and small in a classically Shanghaiese kind of way. As always, she comes dressed in a long flowing skirt, patterned in dark hues, long dark hair cascading over her shoulders. It's a bit offensive. It looks naturally the way that people spend hours attempting to put together. But despite that visage, she does not carry herself as someone who possesses that kind of beauty. There's a quiet contemplation about her, someone watching everything happening, observant but not participating. In fact, it's not until you address her directly that she even bothers to recognize that you might have wanted her attention.
I smile at Sun once she finally recognizes that I'm speaking to her and ask her if I can have a seat.
Of course, sister. There's always room for another. And she reaches over, patting a spot on the bench adjacent to her. Convenient, of course, that it's far enough away from Dusable where a conversation could be had with a modicum of privacy. What occupies your intellect this evening?
I'm sure the same thing as everybody else here. This vote, this sacrifice that we're about to witness.
Indeed. It's quite the momentous occasion. Strange that the prince would allow a vote on the matter. The pyramid would never allow such a thing.
Well, I, for one, think we're actually incredibly fortunate that Prince Jackson has a lot of vote for this evening. And circumstances have changed, such that every individual kindred is able to vote in a way that better aligns with their personal views on the matter.
I don't suppose this would have anything to do with your conversation with the prince and then the Bruja elder.
Oh, you saw that, huh?
No, I didn't see anything. But the Regent did. He announced his displeasure.
Of course he did. Yes. Ooh.
I wouldn't worry. I assured him that our loyalties will survive any amount of secret balloting. We're all Tremere, of course. The mechanism of a vote has no bearing on our loyalty to the pyramid.
Not to the pyramid. No, of course not. But is the Regent the pyramid? Do we really believe that the pyramid would be so against this?
I don't believe it's within my purview to ask those kinds of questions, Ivy. The pyramid is the pyramid. Regent Dusable is the senior-most among us, and in matters facing the clan, until a more senior figure emerges with different instructions, his voice is the voice of the pyramid. There's something strange about the level of eye contact she's making with you in this moment. It's not conversational, the way someone who's merely paying attention to your words might offer. She's reading something, in your pupils or behind them, maybe in the way that certain words curl on your lips. She's looking for something. And if you make a composure and insight roll, I might tell you what that is.
Does 3 successes do it?
3 successes is plenty. Sun Che is trying to get the measure of your intent. The Tremere are notorious for playing political games with one another. Every moment of every night in chantries around the world, neonates and ancilla and elders are all just scheming and plucking at one another, looking for that little drip of information that will earn them just enough favor with their superiors. Sun has her own opinions on this matter. She's trying to decide if this is you laying a careful trap or if you're someone she can honestly discuss it with.
Oh, always with the games. It is. Perhaps not quite so bold as believing that the Regent isn't doing everything in his power to further advance the clan.
You've been paying more attention in the Chantry than I thought.
I have been on a very short leash since arriving in Chicago. Dusable has made it very clear that I am to get no leeway. I see a lot more than I think he realizes.
Perhaps. It is also possible that he knows, and he's merely waiting for the right time to catch you in the act. I wouldn't worry about that, though. I've been here a bit longer than you have. I have a sense for when he's actually angry or investigating things. For now, I believe you're safe.
Well, son, this perception that you have of Dusable is one of the reasons I actually wanted to come talk to you this evening. I just think that we could become friends, and we could enter a mutually beneficial relationship with one another in the nights to come.
Words spoken oftly between Tremere, but very rarely meant.
Which is precisely why I have come with a token of good faith, let's call it. I have a book club. This book club is full of wonderful people who love the occult just as much as you and I do. Well, okay, perhaps not quite as much as you or I do. But they feel very, very strongly about the occult. And you are such a prominent figure in the occult scene. It would be my pleasure and my truest honor to have you come and speak to my book club and perhaps find a couple new members who would follow you instead.
I see. I must say I never imagined I would be on the receiving end of a speaking engagement.
Well, son, I am nothing if not full of surprises.
Given your lineage, I would expect nothing less. Yes, Ivy, I will accept your invitation.
Wonderful. I look forward to working with you in the future, son.
Not for our own sake, for the pyramid.
Oh, absolutely.
At this point, whatever leeway Dusable was willing to give the two of you, so far as privacy is concerned, seems to have run its course. And not deliberately, not directly, certainly not obviously. He's begun to close the distance between his previous perch and your conversation. Sun looks over, meets his gaze, nods with a perfectly Tremere amount of subservience, and then returns to you. Well, then together we shall see the pyramid's will be done. It's a pleasure to see one so committed as myself, and I'm sure the Regent will be pleased.
Undoubtedly. And I turn and smile at Dusable as I see him approaching. Regent, good evening.
Miss LaRue, Miss Che, it's pleasant to see that the two of you are using this opportunity to discuss the better goals of our clan. Might you be so kind as to privy your Regent to the nature of your discussion?
Oh, of course, Regent. We were just talking about the vote for this evening. The judge believes that a secret ballot will improve the legitimacy of tonight's vote. And given my role in things the last few nights, the prince tasked me with sending this information off to Critias. I was merely updating Sun on how things this evening had changed.
Is there a reason you decided to go to one of your colleagues before providing that information to me?
Oh, my sincerest apologies, Regent. I was under the assumption that you already knew. Based on where you were seated and your proximity to the prince, I didn't want to insult your intelligence and tell you things that you already knew.
Very well, then. It changes nothing, of course. I expect loyalty from my subordinates, and I have no reason to believe that they would show me anything but loyalty. And honest to God, in that moment, you kind of actually believe him.
I smile warmly at the Regent. Of course not. As Tremere, we must stand together. We must provide a united front. It's all we have.
Indeed. Well, as much as it pains me to watch you gallivant off, it would not do well for the prince to call upon a Tremere in these matters and to have her spend her evening only conversing with us. You have other business to attend to, I'm sure.
Of course, Regent. I won't take up any more of anybody's time here. If you'll excuse me.
Of course, Miss LaRue. And the Regent watches behind cold, calculating eyes, measuring every single one of your steps as you depart the cloister that the Tremere have claimed for themselves and return to the busy, busy work of politics and princes. It doesn't feel good being watched that closely, does it?
No, but to be clear, it's nothing new. He's had his eye on me since I arrived in the city.
Well, at the very least, if you assume you can trust Sunche, then you seem to have gotten the better of him this evening.
It's a risk trying to trust another Tremere. I mean, trying to trust any kindred. But this sort of undertaking, it requires a little bit more trust. It's a risky play.
Well, I hope for your sake things pan out. Well, Schmendrick, your friends are all getting busy canvassing not the room, but you know what I mean. What is it you're going to do for yourself in the meantime?
I'm aware that the ministers have a proclivity to the underworld, smuggling, that sort of thing. And I think this will actually be extremely useful for me in the future when dealing with Bronwyn's particular type of smuggling. And so I do believe that Marcel is the one that I should be at least cozying up to tonight.
Well, if you're looking for people who are up to no good in any given city, the ministers are a great place to start. And hey, you Nosferatu and the ministry both make ample use of the sewers, so it's not like you don't have a good pretense for that conversation, right?
Exactly. I mean, a lot of people make fun of us for using them, but they can be pretty useful in a pinch.
What is the old wisdom? They hate us 'cause they ain't us?
Sure, let's go with that one. So with that in mind, I actually go and approach Marcel and give him a little bit of a nod. Hi, Marcel. I am Schmendrick. You probably don't know me yet. I'm quite new here. Well, other than from the prince's announcement, but, first time impressions.
The man who listens quietly to your introduction is thin, more elderly than you would expect. His skin tone betraying a background Haitian, Caribbean, somewhere in that part of the world. He reaches up to stroke his chin as you finish your comment. Yes, Schmendrick, we've seen quite a lot of you in these last few days, but it's nice to meet you. I am, yes, Marcel. We and I are of the ministry. How can we help you this evening?
Well, given the state of the Elysium tonight, I was actually wondering what your opinion on all of this was.
Yes, the question at hand for the future of the Camarilla. Unfortunately, Schmendrick, we and I have no opinion on the matter. The ministry is not traditionally among the Camarilla's number, and we feel it would be inappropriate for us to inject any sort of opinion into the matter. There are those of you who would look quite unkindly at a minister's voice being the deciding vote.
The prince has invited all kindred in the city to let their voices be heard on this matter, and I think that's for the better. This is going to be, should the Lasombra be officially accepted, quite a change for all, even those who have abstained from voting.
The ministry has survived a great many changes in this world. Also, we are fairly competent at the craft of adapting to new circumstances. If the Lasombra are admitted, if they are turned away, in either cases, we and I will be ready.
Well, Marcel, from what I understand, just talking with others tonight, I don't think the ministry is going to be the deciding vote in this factor. But I will say that if the Lasombra are admitted, and if the prince goes through those votes and sees the names in opposition, it might be a little awkward for them. Might be easier, as I understand the ministry is enterprising, that you vote in the affirmative.
You see Marcel at least chewing on the thought. It is not on its face persuasive, but neither has he shut down your line of logic immediately. Why don't you make a manipulation and persuasion roll for me?
Oh, I'm not good at those. Let's see. Ooh, 1 success.
Well, you gave it your best shot, but 1 success is not going to be enough to accomplish your goal. Marcel reads your face. He's trying to determine your intentions here, figure out if there's a scheme hiding behind any of this, doing his due diligence, as it were.
And I totally expect that of him.
But for whatever reason, at the end of it, you can't make the sell. And he shrugs and says, "That is a chance that we and I will have to take, Schmendrick. Due respect."
Then perhaps there's some other way I can garner your assistance in this matter.
Oh?
Well, I am quite talented if you ever require the assistance of a Nosferatu information gathering agent.
Aha. You do have Camarilla colors, then. It is your intent to bribe the ministry into supporting this endeavor.
If I may be honest with you, I am also here trying to make connections, and I would like to, in the end, get to know the ministry and you, of course, a little bit better, as I think it'll help me in the long run here. If that's too bold, I'm sorry.
Marcel is smiling very wide at this moment. Well, whatever your purpose, if it is your intent to bring some kind of untoward influence into these proceedings, then the ministry is, of course, bound to help. And if you have your own motives buried beneath these things, then perhaps a boon is in order to cement the beginning of whatever relationship you imagine to come in the future.
At this, I just sort of give him a smile in return and extend my hand. I think that's acceptable.
Marcel is still smiling and reaches out to take your hand with none of the usual hesitation you see in other vampires. There's a glimmer in that moment of 2 outcasts joining one another in schemes. Very well. A minor boon has been entered. We'll notify your harpy, and when the time comes, you may repay this debt. Until then, perhaps the ministry will reconsider their position and choose to favor the prince's proposition.
Thank you, Marcel. I look forward to working with you.
The pleasure will be all mine, Schmendrick.
Politely, I will bid him adieu and go back to rejoin the others. Pleased that we have at least another vote or 2, possibly?
Every little bit helps, right?
Exactly. Also, there's that whole, if I can learn from traffickers, maybe I can apply that information to what I've learned of Bronwyn so far.
No, hey, I love it. It blows my mind that Schmendrick is the most Kindred schemy of all of you, and I love every second of it.
I really hope all this scheming just creates something really explosive in the end. I'm after that.
Oh, it always does. It always does. Well, boys and girls, at this point, you've done everything you can. Maybe the secret ballot will be enough to see the Tremere defy their master, or for the Malkavians to risk Newberry's ire. Maybe Rebecca's arguments were more persuasive than she thought they were. At this point, there's nothing more to do about it but watch the votes roll in. It's lucky for everybody that Critias is such a well-respected figure among the Camarilla kindred. After all, who better to do democracy than someone who was around when it was invented? And this ancient Greek vampire makes a tremendous showing of counting out the ballots, stacking them with great flourish into 2 opposite piles. The process lends itself to tension. Here and there's a frustrated murmur that ripples out through the audience as one side or another gets a few too many votes in a row. In this moment, every single kindred, from Prince Kevin Jackson all the way on the top on his throne, down to the newest, barely embraced lick who managed to make it to the meeting. Everybody has a stake in this outcome. At a certain point, though, there's no more paper left. Critias turns to Prince Jackson, speaking loud enough, of course, for everyone to hear, and announces in his trademark, deep, rumbly orator's voice. On the question of whether the Lasombra should be admitted to the Camarilla, contingent upon their accepting of the sacrifice of Sabbat elders. The nays, number 37. Already there's a premature roar of delight from the pro side, at least among those who can do math. And the ayes, 53. The murmur turns into a terrifying, excited rush. No matter what your individual decision was, every single kindred is now being forced to reconcile with the fact that they will be sharing their city with the Lasombra. And if that experiment pans out, soon the Camarilla as a whole. Prince Jackson wastes no time taking a few steps toward Malenkov. Prince Jackson wastes no time taking a few steps towards Malenkov, checking his bindings to ensure they're secure, and then pulls the stake from his heart. The Lasombra butcher lurches to life, lifting his head, letting his gaze wander over each kindred in a slow and calculated manner. He stares daggers up at Prince Jackson, who, unflinching, with the gaze of empire in his eyes, asks, "Do you have any final words?" Malenkov spits. "Do you know what you've done? Do you know you just allowed a mass genocide of your own kind? Do you seriously think that will make you safe? You should know better, Prince Jackson, and so many others of you. You've learned nothing from your previous results and your wars and any of it. I don't give a shit if I die. What I care about is the future of the Sabbat and my clan fleeing from their problems to an enemy like you. So fuck you. Fuck her. Fuck Talley. Fuck the Amici Noctis. And fuck all your ridiculous plans. I hope the Umbra reaches up. I hope the shadows of guilt eat you from the inside for the rest of your miserable, undead existences." Nobody blinks. Nobody speaks. Nobody moves. They wait. Prince Jackson turns to Sierra, smiling now. "Sierra Van Burris, as the first Lasombra brought into our ranks through sacrifice, I give you the decision. How shall Malenkov meet his final death?" Sierra looks between the prince, looks to her brother. Not only in clan, not only in war, but literally born of the same sire. This one doesn't deserve mercy. Prince Jackson nods, glancing over to Damien. The sheriff takes a few steps forward, carrying an enormous claymore in his hands. This sword is familiar to Chicago Kindred. This is the same sword that Loden carried into battle when he first liberated Chicago into the hands of the Camarilla. It's as much a sign of office as the Pope's scepter or a king's crown. He passes it to Prince Jackson, who presents it to Sierra. And although the weight is uncomfortable in her arms, although the blade looks clumsy as she raises it up above her head, it cuts all the same as she brings it crashing down into Malenkov's throat. The swing is gruesome, uncalculated, but it reaches the correct effect. And in the instant Malenkov's head is severed from his body, it begins the process of final death, aging immediately in that moment. 100 years of time compressed into a few seconds as a body that was not allowed to die is finally permitted to slip beyond. Sierra still grips the sword tightly as she stares now at the pile of ash where her brother used to be, and Prince Jackson takes a few cautious steps in her direction. She spears the blade into the wet earth, turning to face her new liege, and Prince Jackson lays a hand on her shoulder, turning with her to face the assembled kindred. "Sierra Van Burris, welcome to the Camarilla." There's something relieving about the finality of this moment. There are so many places where this mission of yours could have gone awry, where it could have ended with you turned to dust in a park instead of Malenkov. But now, staring down the evidence of having achieved your goals, gruesome, promising, weighty, I've no doubt that this moment in particular will lurk in your memory for centuries to come if you're lucky enough to have them. And I'd like to know what your reaction is.
I warned Malenkov that he should fear me, and he didn't. So here we are. I'm optimistic about our future. If every Lasombra brings a Sabbat elder with the same enthusiasm that Sierra just took out her brother, it's going to be messy and beautiful.
I have no love for Malenkov, and as I watch his head roll and then turn immediately into ash, I feel a sense of stillness come over me. I feel as though justice has been reached for the people that were trapped inside of that club with him, and I'm happy for it, and I look forward to seeing how things are going to change.
Justice has been served here tonight, and with the Sabbat ways, justice will likely be served another great many times in the nights to come. The deed is done. History is being written before us, and I, with the Banu Hakim, will become known as the Camarilla's vanguards of the justice that needs to be done.
A sense of relief follows Malenkov's head being separated from his body for me. He is the epitome of all things that I've despised in Kindred. His greed, his lack of humanity. And it's ended tonight. And who knows, more like him will follow this path. And if Sierra is true to her word, and those who join us who are, I think good things could come of it. But for now, it means I may resume my hunts.
How some things change, how some things stay the same. It wasn't but a few nights ago that the lot of you were simply waiting to get it over with, going back to whatever normal was. There is no normal now. In the span of a few short nights, your own ambitions, your own goals, the opportunities available to you, they've all changed. Whether you like it or not, you've made a name for yourself in Chicago. Every single kindred in the city knows who Ivy LaRue is, knows who Joshua Crozier is, knows who Schmendrick is, knows who Rebecca Mitchell is. Wherever you go henceforth, people will know your face and the things you've done. And whether that turns out to be a blessing or a curse is still very much in the air. The only thing to say for certain is that, at least based on the look he gives you, Prince Jackson believes that your fates now are inexorably intertwined. It remains to be seen whether that's good news for you or not. With the questions settled and Malenkov disposed of, there's no reason for other kindred to remain. The prince will, of course, formally dismiss them to return to their hunts and their mischief. But the crowd has already begun to thin by the time he makes that proclamation. Once the number of witnesses and eavesdroppers has dwindled, the prince approaches you for once. He's beaming with pride and gratitude, an enthusiasm radiating off of his dead face that you've never witnessed before. And he reaches out with broad arms, patting you on the back, shaking your hand, drawing you into those cute little business-friendly embraces, and whispering all the wonderful things that are to come. I have to be honest, when we first picked you for this mission, I wasn't sure that you'd make it happen. I'm thrilled to see that I was wrong. You have a friend in the court now, and as a man of my word, I assure you, in the next few days you'll be rewarded. Anything I have, anything I can provide, let me know, and within reason, it'll be done. You want a retainer, you need some turf, you need some debts canceled. You've earned it. In the meantime, you deserve some rest. So how about the 5 of us, we have a little meeting, my office, 5 days from now. We'll talk about how we can settle this debt, and we'll talk about what comes next.
Sounds like a plan.
I look forward to it. Admittedly, I'm a bit shaken by him calling me friend, considering our history. But I'll take what I can get.
This is how ascents begin.
If I still drew breath, I would breathe a sigh of relief. And I really look forward to the 5 days I have without having to step into the court again.
It's my sincere hope that those nights are as uneventful as you'd like them to be. There is one small thing, though. Joshua, you did get your pen back. There's going to be a moment where you go to stuff it back into your pocket, but your pocket's not as empty as it should be, and it doesn't take you long to recognize that this mystery object is a wax-sealed letter, the same purple crown, the same cream-colored paper that Sierra presented to the prince only a few nights ago.
Oh no.
Without eyeing it over first, I just begin reading aloud to the coterie. To whomever finds this letter, I hear rumors my two delegates successfully delivered the message from my clan, and dear Malenkov must lose his life as a result. I was hoping they would both return safely, but I can understand the nature of our proposition did not exactly prevent that. It's a crying shame to lose someone who served his clan for over a century, but we all agree sacrifices must be made. It seems my effort might have been in vain, sadly. While others of my clan might join the Camarilla as a part of this offering and future sacrifices, I found out last night the clan I served loyally for half a millennium is prepared to execute me to show their dedication to the Camarilla cause. Cold, don't you think? I suppose that means I will have to leave your lovely city soon. It's been a delight watching how a Camarilla domain of this strength acts when confronted by unexpected political events such as this, and I might have interfered once or twice, but I'm getting carried away and should pack my bags. Of course, if there's a blood hunt for me in Chicago as a result of this letter, I welcome the chase. Send your best. Think of the status they might earn by capturing me. Allow me to show you why you do not want the Lasombra as adversaries. Until then, Talley.
Excuse me, Talley is here? In Chicago, right now.
Under our noses? My... How?
My jaw is on the ground right now.
Makes sense to have someone observing, I suppose.
I mean, the Talley, though.
Can vampires get, anxious, upset stomachs?
Whether literally or not, psychosomatically? Sure.
I'm not sure if the hairs on the back of my neck can still stand up in death, but my hackles would be raised, and that feeling of being watched has settled in.
I am just standing there, holding the letter, grinding my teeth.
Do we tell the prince?
How can we not?
Well, it seems your nights won't be as quiet as you thought they would be. Will you tell the prince? Will you not? Remains to be seen. All I know for now is that's a story for another night. You've been listening to the All Night Society, an actual play podcast brought to you by Queen's Court Games. If you enjoyed your stay, be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app. For more content, including exclusive art and audio, follow us on Facebook or Instagram at Queen's Court Games, or on Twitter at Queen's Court RPG.